Story time. So just when I thought dating couldn't get any worse, surprise, it did. I went on this date. It was like a FaceTime date the other night with this guy, and it was going okay at first. It was a little bit awkward, but it was fine. Pretty soon into the date, he asked me what my type was. And I said, well, I don't really have a type. Like, all my exes are pretty different, which is true. And then I asked him what his type was. He looked me straight in the eyes and said to me, well, normally I go for really strong, motivated, and independent women, but they're all pretty heartless. So I'm trying something different. Excuse me, bitch?
So I used to really, really like this guy who said, and I quote, "The only thing I'm into are nice bodies." And I didn't have a very nice body at the time. But I worked really hard and I got one, and I went to go show it off to him. And then he started screaming and saying things like, "Get away from me, you're a murderer. How did you carry this human being all by yourself?" And as he was doing what some might call escaping, he turned to me and he said, "This is the last time you're going to see me. What do you have to say for yourself?" And I looked at him and I said, "Do you remember that you said bodies plural?" Because I don't think you're going to like what comes next.
I'm going to be telling you the scary story of the exorcism of Roland Doe. It all started when Roland and his grandmother would hear scratching coming from the floorboards of the grandmother's room. They called an exterminator the next morning and they couldn't find anything that was causing the scratching. The weird part about the scratching is it would start every single night at exactly 7 p.m. and end at exactly midnight. The noise eventually moved from the grandmother's room to Roland's room. Roland started to hear someone every single night walk from one side of his bedroom to the next. Roland's mom was convinced that this might be their Aunt Helen. Helen had recently passed away and was really, really close to Roland. It made perfect sense if she was the spirit of the house. Later, we would learn that Roland would always use an Ouija board in order to get in contact with his Aunt Helen. One night, Roland's mom asked the spirit that was walking back and forth in Roland's room if it was Helen. She told the spirit to knock 3 times if it was Helen. 3 massive gusts of wind went over them and knocked 3 times behind their heads. Stay tuned for part 2. This is part 2 of the exorcism of Roland Doe. One night when the spirit was walking back and forth in Roland's room, the mom decided to ask if it was their Aunt Helen. She asked the spirit to knock 3 times if it was Helen. 3 massive gusts of wind went over their heads and knocked 3 times on the wall behind them. She then asked the spirit to knock 4 times if it was Helen. Again, 4 gusts of wind went over their heads and knocked 4 times on the wall behind them. The family was convinced the spirit was just Helen, until something started to scratch inside of Roland's mattress. They could physically feel something inside the mattress. And all of a sudden, just like that, the mattress started to shake and shake and shake. Vases started to fly across the room. One day, Roland was sitting in an armchair and it literally flew up into the air, threw him out of the chair, and flew backwards. The armchair was physically too heavy for Roland to even pick up. There was something else controlling him. Stay tuned for part 3. This is part 3 of the exorcism of Roland Doe. After everything that was going on, the family knew that Roland was actually being controlled by something inside of his body. They knew it was demonic. When Roland would actually get sleep at night, he would talk in his sleep a lot. But it wasn't talking in his sleep like you would normally expect from a person. He was speaking full Latin. Roland didn't even know Latin. The Doe family decided to finally take him to a Lutheran minister. The minister thought it would be best for Roland and his mom to come spend the night at his house. At about 3 in the morning, Roland and his blankets were on the floor and going underneath the twin bed. Roland's body started to shake viciously up and down, hitting the springs under the bed. But Roland didn't even wake up. The minister told the Doe family that there was nothing he could do and they needed to go see a Catholic priest. Roland started to develop long, bloody scratch marks all over his body every single night. But the weird thing was, every single morning when he would wake up, the scratches would just be gone. Stay tuned for part 4. Storytime, my boyfriend found out that his best friend got me pregnant. It was my junior year in high school and my boyfriend and I had been dating for 4 months. Well, the one night his friend and I were all supposed to go to this party. My boyfriend ended up getting called into work that night, so his friend and I went. Which my boyfriend was fine with because he wanted his best friend to keep an eye on me, but he also trusted us. Anyway, so his friend and I ended up going to the party and then but the next morning I woke up, I didn't remember that at all. So fast forward, I find out that I'm pregnant. Well, me forgetting that I totally cheated on my boyfriend, I thought that it was his. Well, a week later, I get a text from his friend. And he's like, oh my god, what are we gonna do? And I'm like, what do you mean, what are we gonna do? So then he filled me in on the whole situation that I didn't remember. But I was like, there's really no chance of this because my boyfriend and I fucked like a million times and me and you fucked once. The real tea is that my boyfriend was black and his friend was white. Well, me being the ass bitch that I am, I was like, well, let's just wait it out. I bet it's not his. Like for part 2. Part 2 about how my boyfriend found out that his best friend got me pregnant. So like I said, my boyfriend was black, his best friend was white. And because I doubted that it was his best friend's kid, I decided to wait it out. Say it with me, bad idea. So fast forward, I'm in the delivery room and I decide not to have my boyfriend in there. Well, let's just say good thing that he did. Bitch, whenever this thing popped out, it was white as fucking paper. So I was like to the doctor, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna have a panic attack. Please get the baby out of the room. I don't want anybody around the baby right now. So when my boyfriend came back in the room, I was like, oh, we can't see the baby. He's having some issues. He's over here freaking out. I'm having a fucking panic attack about what I'm gonna do. And they brought my kid back and I was like, that's not my kid. And this girl looked so confused. She was like, oh, okay. And my boyfriend and I are laughing. We're like, oh, haha, that's funny. Then she comes back into the room and she's like, ma'am, this is your kid. So my boyfriend started screaming and he broke up with me after that. Like, how rude to just leave me with a kid by myself. No, I'm just joking. I know that was pretty fucked.
Storytime on how I got caught for not eating breakfast. My bus used to come at 8:50 and I would wake up at 8:30. By the time I came downstairs, it would be like 2 minutes until the bus arrived. So as a sneaky kid I was, I took the cereal that my mom put in the dish and put it back in the container. And I did the same exact thing every day because I'd always wake up late. Until one day, my mom decides to mix 2 different cereal types into a bowl. So me, thinking I'm the sneakiest kid ever, put it back into a cereal container with just one brand of cereal. And then I kept getting the same mixture and I put it back. And then one day I came from school. Go to part 2 to see what happens next. Part 2 on how I got caught for not eating breakfast. So I come home one day and my mom is like, we need to talk. And I was like, about what? And she was like, I'm not dumb. I know that you're not eating breakfast. We had a long chat and I learned my lesson. Don't try to be sneaky.
So I work at Bed Bath & Beyond, and first of all, the 3 B's in Bed Bath & Beyond should not stand for that. It should stand for bitches be bonkers, because these people come up in there and they act crazy. I was checking out this boomer woman and she was like, can you tell me how much this is? And I scanned her item and I was like, yeah, it's $19.99. And she looked at me and she went, like the Family Feud buzzer. She went, like it was such a good sound effect. I'm convinced that she was the Family Feud buzzer. Like they had her on salary and shit. She seriously went, nope, it's supposed to be $14.99. And by the sound of her I know that is not the first time that she has done that. I know that that is well rehearsed, that she uses whenever she thinks she caught somebody. I can just imagine her sitting at home. Her husband was supposed to be home 3 hours ago. He walks in the front door. She's like, where you been? He's like, ooh, I had to work late. She's like,
So at this point, I look like I went to a party and had so much fun and then it's all messed up now. But in reality, I didn't even go anywhere. I actually slept in this, like this, so that it wouldn't get messed up because I wanted pictures in the sun. I wanted some sunset pictures in golden hour. So I looked up on my phone what time the sun was setting and I went outside right before that and the sun had already set.
Oh my god. Story time. So you guys know I have all my impressions. What most people don't know is that I do them when I'm like walking around. And half the time, I don't even know I'm saying anything out loud until I catch myself or someone calls me on it. Because I'm just like subconsciously coming up with sketches and thinking of ideas. And well, sometimes people hear me. So today, I'm walking out of my apartment and I run into my neighbor. Now, normally this wouldn't be weird, but I just so happened to be doing the corpse voice. So I'm walking down the stairs, and I look up, and my neighbor is right here. He is so close to me, and he is just staring into his laundry basket like, I'm not gonna look at him, I'm not gonna look at him, I'm not gonna... And I feel so bad for this man, because I do not know him, and in his mind, I'm probably just his super weird neighbor. Whatever. Maybe he'll follow me on TikTok.